Because awareness is all-pervasive, it is as Rupert Spira says, it is the backdrop or the screen to the movie of all of our experiences. It can be difficult in the beginning to differentiate, so to be able to sense, to know awareness without objects. Our habit is to be aware and then immediately be identifying with objects. So our thoughts, objects in space, our feelings, body sensations. But it's actually the most, it's so ubiquitous, it's so close, it's so subtle that we just miss it. We miss awareness itself, which is the point of this kind of practice, is to learn to break the habit of identifying with the experiences, the external, the objects, and see that our nature is awareness itself. So Locke Kelly's doing a great job coming up with these variety of glimpses. So I'm going to kind of use sort of a glimpsing technique similar to something that he offers. So in terms of our sense, the way our pattern of identifying with senses is, it's usually mind first. That's what we're often identifying with, thoughts, concepts. And then sight is a close second. So the way that human beings use sight is so, we rely on it so much and in a particular way that it's almost automatically linked to thought and conceptualizing. So we look at something and then there's an immediate comparing, sizing, and again, it's super useful. But the problem is that we identify with it and we miss that there's something bigger, more inclusive, something that's not biased one way or another happening at the same time, and we just overlook it. So we're going to actually use sight. So first, just notice the activity of the mind. You're hearing my voice. So a normal pattern would be to have a sense of knowing that's in the head, a sense of knowing that's based on understanding, that's based on concepts, that's based on comparing. So notice that activity. Normal activity. Now use awareness to project out into the room, look at an object, and notice how the focus of awareness, especially when we focus on a particular object, we call that attention. So we're going to pay attention to an object. The feeling of awareness is that it gets small. So it's like making the aperture on a light, for example, like a flashlight, making it narrow so that we can just see that one thing. Again, super useful. So focus on that object. The mind is happy when it has an object, like it feels like it can control, that it can understand, and understanding in that way that the mind is sort of addicted to has a lot to do with control. So it alleviates fear. It may even alleviate, in some ways, like a sense of lack. So we look at the object, and now just pull back and be aware of the space between you and the object. So open up, you can broaden the perspective, the peripheral view. I mean, it happens kind of naturally when you pull back. And at least in the for a moment, like paying attention to space, the mind can't grasp it. There's no object. It doesn't have a boundary. It doesn't have a color. Can't be compared to something else, at least for a moment. And you can repeat that. You can do the focus, pull back, open up, and notice the space. And then notice, the feeling ends up being an experience. The feeling isn't awareness itself. It's our response to opening up to objectless awareness. But it's important to notice what happens. So there's an opening. There's awareness that's completely alive, but it doesn't seem to have a location. It doesn't have limits, unlike the conceptual mind has limits. It's just open potential. In Buddhism, emptiness. Not empty like without anything. It's empty like with all possibilities. And notice how, to translate into words, it's like we transgress in a way. It never really fully captures it. Awareness can't be described, but it can be felt, and then the felt sense we can translate as best as possible, but there's a lot of consistency in the way that people describe it. Open, inclusive, might be a sense of love for everything. It's objectless awareness, so it's not fixating on any particular object, so it stays open. It's a feeling of expansiveness. Then you can notice if you shift and look at a particular thing or have a thought, notice that sense of contracting. And just get comfortable with just being able to open back up, know that feeling, and really then the prompt that you can use for learning how to rest in awareness itself is whenever you feel a sense of contraction, just check it out, open back up. All right.